Yeah, welcome back to another study of Revelation, and now we are now we're now in chapter 13, which I'm not sure if this is my favorite chapter, but it might be one of my favorite chapters in the book of Revelation. So, I just wanted to start by sharing John 8:36, which says, "If the Son therefore shall make you free, you shall be free indeed." And what I would like to add to that is I have this saying which I've repeated many times, especially to my wife. Excuse me. That if something is not making you free, it's not from God, and if it's not from God, it's obviously from the devil. Okay, so just bear that in mind in everything that's going on around the world. If something you're being asked to do something or to take part in something, but it's not making you free, just bear in mind that if anything is not making you free, it's not from God. Okay, God wants us to be free. So in a book called Great Controversy, pages 565 to 566, it says the Roman Church, and when it says the Roman Church, it's talking about the Roman Catholic Church. It says is far-reaching in her plans and modes of operation, is employing every device to extend her influence and increase her power in preparation for a fierce and determined conflict. Now here, we're actually going to get the three aims of the Roman Catholic Church, which is sometimes referred to as the papacy. Okay, to regain control of the world. That's number one. Number two, to reestablish persecution. And number three, to undo all, not some, but all that Protestantism has done. Protestantism, remember I spoke about being free here. Jesus said he wants to set us free. Protestantism is what got us to where we are now with all the freedom of speech and freedom of the press and the ability to travel by using cars and planes. So many of the things that we enjoy today are a result of the Protestant Reformation. And of course, these three things I've mentioned that the papacy is doing is part of the Counter-Reformation. Okay. So I've broken down those three things that I mentioned here. I've broken them down here. Is to one, regain control of the world, and they lost control of the world during the Protestant Reformation. Two, reestablish persecution, and of course, persecution happens in different ways. Of course, when you have things like medical inquisition, which one of the major things that are used are vaccines. We have the abortion, which is promoted very heavily in Protestant countries like America. We have these abortion clinics that are being run by Planned Parenthood, so-called. That's all part of persecution, because these things are mostly being done in Protestant countries, whereas you don't really see it happening much in Roman Catholic countries. Number three, undo all that Protestantism has done. Okay, all, not some. So even things like the printing press and the freedom of speech, which I've mentioned earlier, all that is being taken away. As you can see, even on social media, if you say certain things, your channel can get deleted, or you can be shadow banned, which I suspect my channel on YouTube is shadow banned. That's why I don't really get that many views. Then we have another statement here from Great Controversy, page 236. It says, to give them, the Jesuits, greater power, a bull was issued re-establishing the Inquisition. Such were the means which Rome had invoked to quench the light of the Reformation, to withdraw from men the Bible, and to restore the ignorance and superstition of the Dark Ages. I just wanted to comment about the Inquisition here, that there are many people who think that the Inquisition was done away with. No, what they did is they simply changed the name to the Congregation of the Faith. So the name of the so-called Holy Office of Inquisition was changed to the Congregation of the Faith. The doctrine for the Congregation of the Faith, something like that. It's just a name change, but the office is still there. Okay, and I explained earlier that the Inquisition is still going on in the world through war, through medical inquisitions, and many such things, and even the anything that causes disease and death is part of the Inquisition. Um, so, how would they withdraw from men the Bible? By introducing such superstitions as the Big Bang Theory and evolution, or human evolution. All these things are done to take away God's word from you. They can't do it by force like they used to during the Dark Ages, but they do it in other ways. Okay. So let's start our study of Revelation. That was just an intro to Revelation 13, because this power that I've mentioned here, which includes the Jesuits and the papacy, they are the ones that are mentioned in the first half of Revelation 13. So here we have verses 1 and 2. It says, "And I stood," this is John writing, it says, "I stood upon the sand of the sea, and I saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy." So some of these symbols I've covered before many times. The sea represents a heavily populated area, because if we go to, let's see if we can go there quickly. I have shared this before, but maybe in case there's someone who's watching this for the first time. Revelation 17:15. We're just trying to show you what the sea represents in prophecy. Okay. Revelation 17:15, "And he said unto me, The waters which thou sawest, where the whore," a whore is a bad church, "where the whore sitteth, are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues." Okay, so we go back to our PowerPoint. That's what the sea represents in prophecy. It's a heavily populated area. Whereas if you see the wilderness, or for instance, in the second half of Revelation chapter 13, where we see a lamb-like beast coming up out of the earth, it's a place that's not heavily populated. Okay. So this beast here, it had 7 heads and 10 horns. And I shared in the previous, I think it was in Revelation chapter 12, where I showed you that 7 heads represents the 7 mountains in Rome, where St. Peter's Basilica is built. Okay. And 10 horns represent, I don't know if I've got that in this slide yet. The 10 horns represent the 10 regions of the world. The world was divided into 10 regions, or 10 kingdoms in 1973 by the Club of Rome. Okay, but we'll get to that in a minute. It says, "And upon his horns 10 crowns." So 10, who wears crowns is kings and queens. Okay, so each of these 10 regions, which I showed you here, is going to have a king. For instance, right now, the European Union, which is been properly united into one kingdom, has a leader. Her name is Ursula von der Leyen. Okay, so we know that Mexico, America, and Canada are also going to be united, and in fact, even as far as Greenland. That's why recently, some months ago, Trump was talking about how America wanted to annex Greenland. It's because that's part of the whole plan. In fact, if we go back to this map here, you can see that Greenland is up here. All this is supposed to become part of what's known as the North American Union. Okay, so Mexico, America, and Canada. So, and upon his head the name of blasphemy, because the papacy blasphemes God. Okay, but let's move on. Time is moving now. So verse 2, "And the beast which I saw," this beast here, "was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion." Now, where have we seen this before? We've seen this in Daniel chapter 7, where we have 4 beasts. Okay, we have the first one is a lion with wings. The second one is a bear with 3 ribs in its mouth. Next one is a leopard with 4 wings and 4 heads, and then the other one is a beast that wasn't given a name, but it had 10 horns on his head. Okay, but that one is not mentioned here. We have a leopard, a bear, and a lion. Okay, characteristics of these three animals that were in this beast that John saw. Okay, so the leopard, obviously, this is an amalgamated beast. It's those same kingdoms that I mentioned in Daniel chapter 7, which have been amalgamated, because the kingdom that came after all these kingdoms was the Roman Empire. Okay, so the Roman Empire took on the characteristics of these three kingdoms that went before it. And it says here, and the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority. So who gives the papacy its power? The dragon. And we saw that in Revelation chapter 12. We saw that the dragon is Satan. Okay. Where does it say that? Yeah. Verse 9, and the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan. Okay, so very clear, but I shared that with you last time. Let's just go back to our PowerPoint. The dragon gave the papacy his power, his seat, and great authority. And then we have here regards to what a beast is. Perhaps I hadn't actually explained that. It says, what is a beast in Bible prophecy? These great beasts, which are four, this is from the book of Daniel, are four kings which shall arise out of the earth. Okay, a beast can be a king, but it can also be a kingdom. Thus he said, the fourth beast shall be the fourth kingdom upon the earth. Okay, very clear. A beast can be a king or a kingdom. Just like a horn can also be a king or a kingdom. Okay, but a horn can also represent power, because we have a text that talks about Jesus having horns in his hands. So this is the new world order. Okay, 10 regions of the New World Order. So right now, the European Union is the one that's most how do you say that has come together more than the other regions so far. Okay, they even have their own currency there. So let's move on. Revelation 13 verses 3 and 4. And I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death. The heads of that beast that is spoken about here. Okay. Remember, it said that he had 7 heads. So it's saying here, one of his heads was wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast. What is this talking about? Yeah, I think most Christians and theologians acknowledge this as the deadly wound that was inflicted on the papacy when the Pope was arrested in 1798. And who arrested him? It was Berthier, who was Napoleon's general. But the question for those who really, put on their thinking caps when it comes to such things is, why did Napoleon get the Pope arrested? Because Napoleon was he was a Freemason, we know that, but he was also Roman Catholic. Why would a Roman Catholic arrest the head of the Roman Catholic Church? It's because there was infighting going on in the Catholic Church at the time. The Jesuits had been abolished. So Napoleon, when he was arresting the Pope, was doing that as revenge. He was acting on behalf of the Jesuits and taking revenge on the old papacy, with, of course, the Jesuits being the new papacy, and also the wars that what are known as Napoleonic Wars were fought by Napoleon on behalf of the Jesuits, because most of those countries that Napoleon was fighting against had actually kicked out the Jesuits from their own countries. Okay, so this is what this is talking about. But when was the deadly wound healed? It was healed in 1929 when Mussolini signed an agreement with the papacy to give them the Vatican. Okay. First of all, and they worshipped the dragon. And in fact, sorry, let me just go back. Even the papers of the day, the headlines of the papers of the day were talking about the wound being healed, referring to the papacy being given the Vatican, which is the Vatican is the smallest country in the world, but it's the most powerful country in the world. Why? Because the dragon gave the papacy his power, his seat, and great authority. But of course, when the Jesuits, who had been abolished in 1773, were reinstated, they actually that was in 1814. They actually took over the Catholic Church. Okay. And from what I hear, there are many Catholics who actually don't like the Jesuits because they say that they changed the religion of the Catholic Church. But it doesn't matter what the religion of the Catholic Church was like before the Jesuits took over the Catholic Church. It was still a false religion. Okay, that's why in Revelation 18 verse 4, God says, "Come out of her, my people," saying for Roman Catholics to come out of Babylon, spiritual Babylon. Verse 4, "And they worshipped the dragon, which gave power unto the beast, and they worshipped the beast, saying, Who is like unto the beast, who is able to make war with him?" So what's happening here? They worshipped. In fact, if we just go back here to this last sentence here, all the world wondered after the beast. Perhaps this hasn't been fulfilled yet. We haven't gotten to the point where the whole world is wondering or following. When it says wondered, it says talking about following the beast. Okay, there will come a point when the whole world will follow the beast, except for a minority, and we shall read who the minority are who don't follow the beast. Verse 4, they worshipped the dragon. The dragon is Satan. How do they worship the dragon? Do they worship the dragon directly? No, it's because by following the beast, there's actually a quote where it said, "Obedience in spiritual matters is real worship." So when you obey the papacy, you are worshiping Satan. That's what this is saying. They worshipped the dragon, which is Satan, which gave power unto the beast. And when the world wanders after the beast and obeys the beast, which is the papacy, they are worshipping the dragon. And they worship the beast, saying, the beast which is being referred to is the papacy here. Remember, a beast is a kingdom. And they worship the beast, saying, "Who is like unto the beast, who is able to make war with him?" It's a very interesting statement because, recently we had Pope Leo come out and speak against, this war with Iran and everything. But it's actually the papacy and the Jesuits that instigate or start wars. But they do it. They put many front organizations and politicians in front of them so that they don't take the blame. So this is a picture or a drawing that was done by an artist showing this is supposed to be birth year with some kind of paperwork here. He's been sent by Napoleon to arrest the Pope. And it says here, the beast wounded to death 1798, exactly 1,260 years after 538. Of course, we recognize 1,260 years to have started in 538 when the papacy was given charge over all the churches worldwide by Emperor Justinian. So this is 1,260 years, which is sometimes referred to as 42 months or times and half a time. Okay, this is a period of papal persecution, which started once again, as I said, in 538 AD and ended in 1798. So I won't read all this, but I've already explained. This is talking about Berthier and how the Pope was arrested by him. We need to move on because of time. Revelation 13 verses 5 and 6. "And there was given unto him a mouth, speaking great things." Given unto who? To the beast. That John saw in verses 1 and 2. Okay. Here. The beast coming out of the sea, rose up. Papacy rises up out of a heavily populated area. So there was given unto him a mouth, speaking great things. This is talking about blasphemy and great things and blasphemies. And power was given unto him to continue 42 months. The 42 months is the same as 1,260 years. So in God's calendar, there are 30 days in a month. So if you multiply 42 by 30, you'll come up with 1,260 years. I already explained that 1,260 years. It's often referred to as days. It's referred to as days in prophecy, but of course, a day in prophecy is a year. Okay, so sometimes referred to as 42 months, sometimes referred to as times and half a time. Time is a year, and times is 2 years, and half a time is half a year. If you add that all together, you come up with 1,260 days, which then becomes years because we're dealing with prophetic time. Okay, so power was given unto him to continue 42 months, which is 1,260 years. This is the time when the of papal supremacy from 538 to 1798. Verse 6, and he opened his mouth in blasphemy against God, to blaspheme his name and his tabernacle and them that dwell in heaven. How does the papacy blaspheme God? First of all, by claiming to forgive sins, which only God has the power to do that through his son, Jesus Christ. God forgives sins directly. Yes, don't miss. Maybe I'm not saying it properly, but God has the power to forgive sins, and so does Jesus. Jesus forgave sins, and that's one of the reasons why the Jewish religious elders persecuted him, because they said that he was making himself God, not understanding that Jesus is God by virtue of the fact that he is the Son of God, the literal Son of God. And I've spoken about this many times. There are many Christians who believe that Jesus is not the literal Son of God. Well, if you deny that Jesus is the literal Son of God, you're calling God a liar, okay? Because it says many times that Jesus is the Son of God. Even in John 3:16, we read that for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, okay? His only begotten Son. Jesus is the Son of God, the literal Son of God. So on the issue of blasphemy, claiming to forgive sins is blasphemy, and also claiming to be God, of which the papacy claims to be God. Because, for instance, one of the popes said that we take the place of Christ here on this earth. The only one that can take the place of Christ is the Holy Spirit, not a man. Okay, that's blasphemy, and many other such statements. Revelation 13:7 and 8, and it says, and it was given unto him to make war with the saints and to overcome them, and power was given him over all kindreds and tongues and nations. So he was given power over everyone. So when was he given power to do this? During the 1,260 years, which ended in 1798. And all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him. So remember I said that the whole world will wander after the beast, but there's a small group that won't wander after the beast. It's all that dwell upon the earth, with an exception, whose names are not written in the book of life of the Lamb slain from the foundation of the world. So those who have their names written in the book of life will not worship the beast, which is the papacy. Before we move on, I just want to make sure I've covered everything here. So it's actually God allows the papacy, or allowed the papacy, to overcome his saints, and we saw that. Remember, I mentioned the Inquisition. It was through the so-called Holy Office of Inquisition that the papacy exercised this power to make war with God's saints, and some of those saints were the Waldenses from France and Italy, who had to basically separate themselves from society and go into the wilderness to get away from persecution. And even when they went into the wilderness, and that's all covered. It's all I covered this in Revelation chapter 12. The papacy still pursued them by sending armies to kill them, because the papacy doesn't like competition. Okay, they want everyone to bow the knee and to acknowledge them as the head of all the churches around the world, not just the head, but the only true church. But when the Waldenses and the Albigenses didn't do that, they were persecuted. And of course, we had the Pilgrims who eventually left Europe and went to America to get away from persecution in Europe. So moving on to verse 9. If any man have an ear, let him hear. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints. So here, there are many Christians who believe that this is talking about the papacy, about how the Pope was taken captive, okay, because he was leading others into captivity. Perhaps this is physical captivity and spiritual captivity, okay, slavery, mental slavery. He himself ended up being a captive, and he died in exile, okay. Those who use violence are also going to be killed through violence as well. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints. Patience and faith two very important virtues of God's saints. Okay. Yeah. So that's the first half of Revelation chapter 13, which is talking about the papacy. The second half, which starts from verse 11 onwards, is talking about America. And for those who question how we know this is talking about America, we know that because it's giving attributes. And this is actually a very interesting second half of this chapter, which I'll share next time in our next study of Revelation. Thanks for watching the video, and I'll see you in the next one.